The laughter still echoes in my head. My wife, powerful CEO, billionaire in heels, looked me in the eye at the runway, then climbed into her private jet with her friends. She left me standing there. Stranded. Humiliated. "You'll call me." "You always do," she sneered. But this time? I didn't beg. I didn't crawl. I booked a flight to Paris. Alone. 10 minutes into that flight, her phone buzzed. She opened an email. Her smile collapsed. Her face drained pale. And within minutes, she sent me 155 desperate messages. But by then, it was already too late. My name is Damian Rourke, and I'm 34 years old. And if you think betrayal only happens in boardrooms and shady deals, you're wrong. Sometimes it happens in broad daylight, on an airport runway, with the roar of jet engines as your soundtrack. I met Vivian when I was 25. She was already a rising star in tech. Sharp, magnetic, untouchable. Me. I was just a freelance photographer chasing dreams and sunlight. But somehow she chose me. Or maybe, she chose someone she thought she could mold. At first it was magic. Paris in the spring. Rooftop dinners in Tokyo. Her hand in mine as she whispered, "You make me feel normal." But slowly the cracks showed. She loved control. Loved the way people bent to her will. And when she realized I wouldn't, that's when the games began. Little digs. Little humiliations. "You wouldn't understand, Damien. You never went to business school." Or in front of her friends, "He's sweet, but he's not built for my world." I swallowed it. 4 years. Because I loved her. But nothing prepared me for the airport. We were supposed to fly together, to a conference in Zurich. She promised me we'd extend the trip, maybe spend a week in the Alps. I showed up early, camera bag slung over my shoulder, passport ready. Then I saw her. Not at the gate. Not with me. She was at the private hangar, boarding her jet with 3 of her executives. Laughing. Champagne in hand. "Viv." I called out, confused. She turned, smirked. Walked closer just to twist the knife. "You're not coming. This trip is for people who matter." The word sliced clean through me. Her friends laughed. She tilted her sunglasses down, eyes glittering with cruel amusement. "You'll call me when you're done sulking. You always do. Maybe I'll send the jet back if you beg nicely." Then she blew me a kiss, turned, and boarded. The engines roared. The stairs folded. The jet thundered down the runway, leaving me choking in its fumes. For a moment, I just stood there. Broken. But then, something inside me shifted. I pulled out my phone. Booked the first flight to Paris. Economy seat. Middle row. Didn't care. Because if Vivian thought I'd beg, she was about to learn who I really was. And 10 minutes after my plane lifted off, her empire began to crumble. The seat was cramped. The air stale. But for the first time in years I felt free. No luxury jet. No champagne flutes. Just me, headphones, and the hum of economy class. But somewhere above the Atlantic, I imagined Vivian reclining in her leather seat, sipping rose, laughing at how she had taught me a lesson. Except, she hadn't seen the email yet. The one I had scheduled. Because while she was busy building empires, I had quietly built something of my own. A portfolio. A stake in the very company she ran. Photos, documents, evidence. Years of watching her cut corners, manipulate numbers, bury scandals. I had the receipts. And at 37,000 feet, her inbox lit up. The first line of the message. To the board of Vivian Corp. It's time you see what your CEO hides. I didn't hear her gasp. Didn't see her hand tremble as she clutched her phone. But I imagined it. Because I'd scheduled it all. A cascade of emails to the board. To the press. To her investors. Each timed perfectly. 10 minutes into her flight, her kingdom began to shake. Meanwhile, a flight attendant leaned over my shoulder. Paris for business or pleasure? I smiled faintly. Neither. Let's just call it a new beginning. I reclined, finally breathing, while across the ocean my wife, Vivian, the untouchable CEO, was realizing she wasn't untouchable at all. Vivian's jet touched down in Zurich just before dawn. The runway lights glowed across the tarmac, But her mind wasn't on the conference anymore. It was on the email. Her hands shook as she scrolled. Screenshots. Documents. Wire transfers. Shell company names highlighted in red. Each line another dagger. Her executives laughed beside her, oblivious, clinking glasses. But her smile was gone. Because the email wasn't anonymous. It was signed. From Damien Rourke. Her husband. The man she had stranded on a runway hours earlier. By the time she reached the hotel, her phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Calls from the board. Messages from investors. Headlines already forming. Vivian Corp faces questions over missing funds. Anonymous leak exposes CEO dealings. Except it wasn't anonymous. It was me. She called once. Twice. 20 times. I didn't answer. Instead, I strolled along the Seine in Paris, camera in hand. The city breathed around me. Cafes spilling coffee steam into the air, lovers leaning close on bridges, street musicians strumming ballads of freedom. My phone buzzed. Dozens of texts lit the screen. Damien, please. We can fix this. Don't do this to me. You don't understand what's at stake. But I understood perfectly. She had staked everything on her pride, her empire, her belief that I'd always crawl back. Not this time. The cafe owner set down my espresso. Vacation? He asked. I smiled faintly. Something like that. Because while Vivian scrambled in Zurich, fighting to keep her kingdom from burning, I was in Paris, savoring the ashes. And I wasn't done yet. The next day, I met with Celeste, the journalist I had contacted weeks earlier. A woman with fire in her eyes and a nose for truth sharper than any blade. We sat in a quiet cafe off Rue de Rivoli. She sipped black coffee. I slid a small black USB drive across the table. What's on it? She asked. Everything, I said simply. Emails, offshore transfers, falsified contracts. Proof Vivian built her empire on lies. Her eyebrow arched. Why give this to me, Damien? You could take it to the authorities yourself. I stared at the rain streaking the cafe window. Because she silenced me for years. Laughed at me. Used me. The world should see who she really is. Celeste pocketed the drive without another word. By nightfall, the story broke across every major outlet. Vivian Corp CEO under fire for fraud allegations. Evidence suggests years of cover UPS. Her empire didn't just shake. It collapsed. Investors bailed. Shares nosedived. Her friends on that private jet? They vanished like smoke. And my phone? It nearly caught fire. First, the messages. Stop this. You'll destroy everything. Please, Damien, I need you. Then, the voice messages. Her tone cracked, raw, unrecognizable. Damien, you win. Okay. You've made your point. Just stop. Please. Before I lose everything. I played it back twice. The same woman who smirked at me on the runway, who left me stranded like a fool, was now begging. But I didn't reply. Because this wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about balance. She had stolen my dignity in front of her friends, in front of strangers. She'd laughed while I stood abandoned on the tarmac. Now the world was laughing at her. And for once, she felt what I had felt. Paris glowed in the spring sunlight, but my phone screen burned brighter. 155 messages. Each more desperate than the last. Vivian wasn't the same woman anymore. Her sharp CEO tone had fractured. Every line reeked of panic. Damien, I was wrong. I should never have humiliated you. You're all I have left. I read them, one by one, sitting on a park bench beneath the Eiffel Tower. Children played nearby. A street violinist performed Vivaldi, the notes floating above the crowd like a reminder of freedom. And yet, for all her pleas, I felt no pull. Because I finally understood. Her messages weren't about love. They weren't even about regret. They were about control. About trying to keep me in orbit. The empire she built was collapsing. Faster than anyone imagined. The board had called an emergency session. Her closest allies whispered in corners. Regulators circled like wolves. And the press, oh, they devoured her alive. Photos splashed across the front pages. Vivian arriving at Zurich headquarters, face pale, eyes hollow. No smile. No power. CNN anchors analyzed her downfall. BBC dissected her deals. Social media lit up with hashtags calling for her resignation. I turned off my phone, ordered a coffee, and let the Paris wind wash over me. 4 years, she held my life in her perfectly manicured hands, as if I were a pet to parade when it suited her. But now, the roles had flipped. I typed one single reply. 7 words. You left me stranded. Now it's you. And I hit send. Her reply came almost instantly. A single broken sentence. Damien, please. I didn't respond. Because she wasn't my wife anymore. She was just another fallen tyrant watching her empire turn to dust. By the end of the week, the board had made their decision. Vivian was removed as CEO. News channels replayed the footage of her walking out of the skyscraper she once ruled, her sunglasses hiding tears, her power stripped away like a crown snatched mid-ceremony. She tried to hold her head high, but the cameras caught it, the tremor in her jaw, the hollow in her eyes. And me? I was in Paris, not hiding, but planning. Because while she had played with power, I had studied it. Every meeting she excluded me from, every whisper I overheard, every investor dinner where I was ignored, I had learned. And now, the same board that exiled her wanted me. They called it restructuring. They called it fresh leadership. But really? They wanted the man who had pulled back the curtain. I sat across from them in a quiet Paris hotel suite, their suits crisp, their voices low. Mr. Rourke, one began, you exposed the truth. Investors trust you. We want you on the board. Perhaps some more. I should have felt vindicated. I should have felt victorious. Instead I felt calm. Because this wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about reclaiming what was stolen. My dignity, my respect, my place. Later that night, my phone buzzed again. One last call. Vivian. Her voice was nothing like the confident woman I once knew. It cracked. It broke. Damien. Don't take this from me. It's all I have left. The company. It's my life. I closed my eyes, remembering the jet engines, the smirk, the kiss she blew as she abandoned me. Then I answered, steady and final. You left me on that runway, Vivian. You chose pride over love. Now you have neither. I ended the call. And this time, there were no more messages. Weeks passed. Paris became my sanctuary. The streets buzzed with life. The cafes welcomed me with the smell of fresh bread and coffee. The city was alive, and for the first time I was too. The company announced its new direction. My name was in headlines, no longer as the betrayed husband but as the man who rebuilt what had fallen. Damien Rourke joins board. From photographer to power broker. It felt surreal. But it also felt right. Because I hadn't destroyed Vivian. She had destroyed herself. All I did was shine a light on the cracks. And now, I wasn't just surviving her shadow. I was thriving beyond it. One evening, I stood on my balcony overlooking the Eiffel Tower, the city sparkling like 1,000 secrets whispered to the night. I poured a glass of red wine and scrolled through old photos. Paris with Vivian. Tokyo. New York. For a moment, the memories stung. The woman I loved had existed once. But somewhere along the line, she had vanished, replaced by someone who cared more for power than for people. I raised my glass to the horizon. She left me stranded, I whispered. But I found myself. The waves of laughter from the streets below floated upward, and for the first time, it didn't hurt. My phone buzzed one last time. An unknown number. I didn't answer. Because some chapters aren't worth reopening. Instead, I set the phone down, leaned on the railing, and let Paris breathe with me. This was my life now. Not chained to someone else's jet. Not humiliated on someone else's stage. Not living as someone else's shadow. I was Damien Rourke. I had walked through fire, and I had come out unburned. And the world? It was finally mine to photograph, mine to live, mine to own. Fade out.